lot of margin for their convenience and all of that.
Mm.
Actually,
No,
this is a certificate course for Indian students as well as students from abroad. And this time, someone from Africa is also joining. Sometimes they come from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, even Iran. So it is just a benefit of those Indian, I mean, university students, those who want to understand Indian foreign policy, because these are in addition to classroom teaching. And this is
okay.
something which they can nowhere get it. I mean, they can
I know.
talk to you, they can ask you questions here, direct, live, and all that. So students are very curious. They were asking me, sir, when that lecture by Dr. Pasha will be held and all that. It is confirmed, don't worry. And they have been waiting for a long time. So,
No, it is a great thing you are organizing for global students and
yeah, yeah,
also for our own Indian students, because there are very few centers, universities in India which teach international relations. For
okay,
a big country like us, which is aspiring to be a global player, we need
yeah,
more students, more researchers, more institutes, and more people like you who can spread the knowledge of IR, international
yeah.
relations studies, and foreign policy particularly. So you are doing a great job. I really appreciate and admire.
Dr. Pasha, I will send an email to you about a new initiative that is a foreign policy school. And we want not only Indian students to study in India, about India's foreign policy. It is a 4 year honors course, BA International Relations, a specialization in Indian foreign policy. Everything concerning with India's foreign policy and diplomacy will be there. So we are trying to establish that. Let us say this is a big job, big challenge to establish a college in India, particularly in Delhi NCR, where infrastructure and land is prohibitive. I mean, you cannot
I
think of.
know.
So,
I know.
but we are academics. We hope to get support from.
But you can always look for alternative places. I would welcome you to offer a good place in Bangalore, where I'm located. You have
Okay.
a lot of diplomats based there, a lot of
Yeah, yeah, I know. I know.
professors.
Yeah, yeah,
So we can collaborate if you want to start from Bangalore.
yeah, yeah. Certainly,
We
I
have
will get in
ample of
touch with you.
space.
I'm.
Yeah.
I will get in touch with you. Certainly.
Yeah.
That's why I thought of.
No, this is a great initiative. People are looking for around the world. I've been touring quite a few places around the world.
Yeah, yeah,
People are looking for experts and Indian opinion.
yeah, yeah.
Global South, if we articulate our point of view, people are tired of Western narrative, which is taking them nowhere. So,
Okay.
what Indian scholars, what Indian thinkers, professors say, it matters, and they want to code, they want to study, and they want to educate their own people. From
Yeah, yeah,
Nigeria to Indonesia, Brazil,
yeah,
I have toured many countries. So they are
yeah, yeah.
looking for India and its leadership, how it articulates, the elites and the decision makers, all of these things. So what you are thinking, I think it has great opportunities.
I will just send details of the website that I prepared for that, and you can have a look and give suggestions to us. I always welcome
So,
suggestions of the people who have been there in this profession for a very long time, like
yeah,
you.
if you think
So,
I am of any value, I'll be very happy to
no,
associate.
no, no, you are valuable to us. Don't say like that. So, Dr. Pasha, I will not take much time, and I will once again welcome you to this initiative. And you can start your address. Do you want to speak, or you want to share some PPT, etc.? No.
No, I'll speak straight away.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
So now, yeah,
yeah.
please go ahead and with your address. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Professor Mahendra Gaur, for inviting me to speak today on India's foreign policy slash relations. I'm extremely happy to share my views in the 30 minutes you have given to articulate my views. Although the topic is vast, it needs more time, but I'll do my best to summarize and comprise my thoughts. At the outset, let us remind ourselves that Indian foreign policy doesn't operate in vacuum. After our independence in 47, the Cold War took place, and we were in the non-aligned bloc. Then in the post-Cold War, uh, we did our best to normalize relations with the United States, which was not welcoming our non-aligned position or our close relations with the Soviet Union and its allies. So from 1991, we had the US-led New World Order, that is the unipolar world. But the current world order since at least 2005, is not unipolar. It is emerging or moving towards multipolar world. And after the fracture of US-led unipolar world, the centers of power have shifted decisively towards Asia, towards India, China, Russia, and now we have the BRICS with Brazil and South Africa. And our policy from the very beginning has been to articulate what India has inherited from its civilization, from its history, from its culture, and our freedom movement. And that is to follow an independent policy and support the decolonization process, which has given us friends in the global south, from Latin America through Africa, through Asia, and different parts. The global south for India is extremely important because of colonization, because of imperialism, because of domination by the European powers and exploitation. So India's first priority has been to consolidate its relations with the third world countries, first through the non-aligned world movement, and now through its support in different forums, whether it is in the non-aligned bloc still functional, or the United Nations, or through bilateral relations. So in order to work consistently for peace, security, and stability, and adherence to the UN Charter and our Panchsheel, that is 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, we have been tirelessly working to strengthen India's relations with a number of countries. Excuse me. The first priority has been our neighborhood, that is the SAARC area, and we have made tireless efforts to resolve our differences with Pakistan and with China. But unfortunately, not much progress has been made in Pakistan because of the external factors, especially the United States, which has used Pakistan against India. And because of the territorial issues still with China, there is a sort of uneasy peace or what you might call encouragement for trade with China, which is a sound policy. Then we have the neighborhoods, extended neighborhoods, as we call in West Asia, Southeast Asia, and Central Asia, with which we have developed external bilateral relations, whether it is with Iran or GCC countries or Israel and the other Arab countries. We have strategic partnerships with Oman, with UAE, with Bahrain, with Saudi Arabia, and Israel, so on and so forth. In Southeast Asia, also, we have very good relations with the ASEAN countries, along with Central Asia. Booming trade with all of these neighborhoods and investments from India and from these parts in India also, it is growing. We have a free trade agreement with the ASEAN countries. With Africa and Latin America, also, our diplomacy relations quite vigorous, and we have excellent relations. There is no country in these regions with which we are at loggerheads or have fundamental issues. On top of it, we also maintain excellent relations with the multilateral organization. In fact, we have been a strong advocate of multilateralization of the international system, particularly the UN Security Council. And we have been the largest provider of international peacekeeping force to the UN organization, spread in over 42 countries since we first began sending troops for the peacekeeping operations. This broadly encompasses our immediate area of interest, but our main focus has been on the major powers or the superpower United States and Russia. As I mentioned, Russia, the successor state to the Soviet Union, has been a solid supporter of India, whether it is arms supplies or trade and so on and so forth. That has remained as India's all-weather friend, uh, thick and thin, and we have solid relations with Moscow on a number of issues, in spite of the Ukraine war and sanctions, Western sanctions on Russia. We have maintained robust relations with Russia, economic, military, defense, and political, diplomatic relations. And I don't think this will dilute in the near future. With the United States, although there has been substantial improvement and we have growing defense and strategic cooperation, but at times there are hiccups in this bilateral relationship because of the unceasing demands from the United States, which expects much more from India, whether it is in terms of economic cooperation, the facilities for American MNCs, or defense purchases, or its ongoing struggle with Russia and China. Although we are members of the Quad, but we don't want to be subservient to any power, as I mentioned. India wants to have good relations, but India, as you know, it's a huge country, it's a huge civilization. It's a large economy. It's a nuclear power. It's a large market. It's the largest democracy, largest pool of skilled people. It has diversity and very old civilization. We cannot become subservient or a puppet of any major power like Pakistan had become, which was squeezed and drained for decades, led to bleed now what it is. So in that way, India expects the United States to appreciate our strategic autonomy, our independence in foreign policy, but America has become used to treating other countries as vassals, as puppets. Even the European countries many times feel the high-handedness of the United States. So in that way, our overall foreign policy has been, through diplomatic efforts, a fairly successful one in establishing fairly good relations with the United States. maintaining and strengthening with these Russians, and also continuing the dialogue with China and with the EU and major partners in Latin America, Africa, West Asia, Central Asia, Southeast Asia. But we need to work more in the South Asian region, where disturbances are created by external powers, whether it is in Pakistan or Afghanistan or Nepal or Maldives or Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, as we have seen. We need to spend more energy, time, effort, and share more with our neighbors and continue the dialogue despite external interference. That has been our weakness. We need to focus. I'm sure the Ministry of External Affairs and the government will focus how to strengthen bilateral relations in spite of provocations imposed on our neighbors to contain us, to derail us, and to create problems for Indian development, Indian advancement. But the silver lining is our association with the BRICS and the SCO and with other international organizations, although we continue our efforts to restructure the United Nations and other multilateral organizations. But we are hoping that through BRICS, the multilateralization of the international order will slowly take shape. The second point I would like to highlight in this connection is the Ministry of External Affairs needs reorganization or strengthening because, as you know, the United States has a huge office under Secretary of State, and they have Assistant Secretary of States for every region. Whereas our Ministry of External Affairs is the Minister of External Affairs is assisted by only one Minister of State. We need to have multiple assistant ministers to look after each and every region, which is of great importance to us. Starting with South Asia, we need to have a separate minister who would focus with the assistance of the senior external affairs minister. Then with West Asia, with whom we have growing interest, security interests, whether it is trade, investment, workers, energy security, food security, maritime security, and overall peace and stability in that region, which is extremely important. Then with Africa, we need to do more. So a special minister looking after the MEA on all of these regions on multilateralism also is extremely needed. Secondly, our embassies are hard pressed to concentrate on political, diplomatic, and commercial and cultural and overseas affairs. We need more diplomats. You know, Singapore has more diplomats than India. A small country like Singapore, if it can have more diplomats than a large country like India, then we need to look into this discrepancy. We need to have more diplomats, train them in different languages. For example, I've been a diplomat and I was astonished to find that many diplomats in the West Asian region, in the Arab countries, hardly speak Arabic. There are only a handful of people in the MEA who know Arabic language, although we send every year to Cairo to train 3 to 5 diplomats in Arabic language, but they are posted after the training to Latin America and anywhere else in the world where the Arabic language is not polished and improved and sustained. So in that way, we need to focus more. Thirdly, we need more experts, more universities, more research centers and institutes which train our students in international relations, international studies, in diplomacy, because of the importance India has come to assume globally, regionally, and internationally also. We need to have more experts who can think and articulate Indian position. If we compare to other countries, even our neighbor China, which has huge universities focused. Our universities, only a handful of them have international relations. Even those are under tremendous pressure, especially JNU, from where I taught for more than 35 years, is under pressure, and they lack funds. We need to earmark more funds to teach international relations and prepare our students in every field. So funds should be allocated to area studies, to universities which are studying international relations. I'm emphasizing this because it is extremely important. Unless we have more funds, more experts, more universities, more institutes, more journals to articulate our voice, will not reach different corners of the world. And that is how many countries, whether it is America or Europe, have been dominating the scene because of the large pool of experts and diplomats they have been able to post. Even in the media, international media, there are very few newspapers or channels which have correspondents all over the world. This is the major lacuna in our media, where we don't have enough experts for articulating our view in different parts of the country. So, all in all, what I want to emphasize is India has come to become a model in many ways, whether it is democracy, smooth transfer of power, periodic elections, smooth conduct of elections, and our way of development, economic development, despite sanctions for many years because of our nuclear policies in 74, we were able to develop indigenous technology. And we were able to build our own industries, technology, software, and nuclear power, military power, so on and so forth. So our innovation has inspired many countries around the world, and we need to share like we did in the ancient period when Indus Valley civilization became world famous, and it shared with the Magan civilization in Oman, the Dilmun civilization in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, and the Mesopotamian civilization, the Sumerian and Assyrian civilization in Syria and Iraq, and of course the Nile Valley civilization in Egypt and Sudan. So in that way, India has achieved with its own capability and also with the help of its friends much more, which many countries in the global south look to emulate, look to follow and learn from our experiences, both domestic and external policy. Coming to the West Asian hot spots, trouble spots in West Asia, the Arab-Israeli conflict has been quite enduring for more than 100 years since the Balfour Declaration in 1917. It has taken many shapes, many forms, and it is expanding beyond Palestine to neighboring countries and even reaching Iran and other parts of this region with global ramifications. Now, because of turmoil in this region, the supply of oil and gas could be affected, which will impact the entire world. Because if supplies are supply channels or pipelines or refineries or choke points are affected, the price of oil will go up because the bulk of the oil and gas comes from this region or transits through this region. So in that way, the wars and the violence and terrorism and instability in this Gulf region and West Asian region is going to impact not only India but also the global economy, which may push it to recession and see incalculable harm to many countries which are already reeling under inflation and unemployment and other economic problems. So in that way, the turmoil in different parts of the world, we need to address them and take initiatives, whether it is the Arab-Israeli conflict or the Ukraine conflict, and prevent the escalation and spread to other areas in league with other, in cooperation with other countries as well. I think I'll stop here. There are issues, like domestic roots of Indian foreign policy. I can speak if there are any questions on this issue. Thank you.
Dr. Pasha, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
You have given a very comprehensive survey of India's foreign policy and relations. What more should be done to take our country's foreign relations to all parts of the world? The structural redesigning on the part of the ministry at the policy level and all things. These are the, I think, issues that need emphasis. So now I will ask the students first to raise any questions if they have, and then we will take up some other issues. Yes, come on,
Sure.
be quick. Introduce yourself and put your questions directly in a simple manner. Come on, be quick. Come on. Any questions that you want to put and to want to know more about what he has said? Come on. Or I have some, emails and some questions have been sent to me
Okay.
presented to you. And of course, the present turmoil in West Asia attracts everybody's attention. It is a hot spot. And I think we should focus on that only. What is the way out of this impasse in West Asia? How do you think that this conflict is be taken to its logical end? How peace can be established?
Yes, this is a very important question which the whole world is seized of and it is grappling with. The basic problem has been the displacement of the Palestinian people who were living in Palestine, and the British brought the European Jews to live there, and it has become a colonial settler state, first used by the British against Arab nationalism. And then after 56, the Americans have been consistent in their support to Israel, and the Jewish lobby in the United States has become very important as a supporter of Israel's cause in the US administration. So the strategic interests of Israel are linked with the United States policy in this region, and that is, first of all, to ensure the security of Israel. Then, of course, the oil and free flow of gas and hydrocarbons to the rest of the world, especially its allies, the United European Union, Japan, and Korea, and other countries, including India. So, in that way, there is this struggle by the Palestinian people, supported by the Arab people, and also now Iran and Turkey. So, there is this clash between two rival points of view. One led by the United States, which supports Israel in all its policies, whether it is takeover of the Arab lands, Palestinian lands, or expelling them or appropriating their lands, and which is opposed by the other policy, and that is to insist on two-state solution where the Palestinians will have a state of their own from the territories which Israel occupied in 1967, that is Gaza, West Bank, and East Jerusalem. There is consensus, even the United States welcomes this two-state solution. But the problem is it is unable to force Israel to vacate the territories it has occupied since 67. And expansionism and greater Israel idea, which is the backbone or root cause of the problem. So only an international consensus with which Israel was created in 1947 through the UN General Assembly Resolution 181. That kind of consensus, if it is arrived at the United Nations or any international or multilateral forum, only then the solution acceptable to all the parties can be brought out. But I don't see it happening now because of the power imbalance and because of the other group which is supported by Russia, China, and great part of the global South, which is not enamored by the United States-led Western-led international order, which selectively targets countries because of its double standards on Ukraine. On the one hand, they want to proclaim Russia as the culprit and sanction Putin and issue arrest warrant against Putin and seize his foreign exchange, gold, etc. But on the other hand, they don't want the United Nations to censor Israel or to International Court of Justice or International Criminal Court to act against the violators in the case of Gaza and Lebanon. So in that way, this double policy, double standards from the United States and Russia and Ukraine and in Gaza and Palestine and Israel has led to cracks in the support from global South. So in that way, more and more countries are pivoting towards BRICS, towards dumping dollars in the international trade. And that is how the struggle is now linked, the Palestinian struggle is now linked to the global restructuring of the order, which many countries have now become critical of, because any resolution which supports the Palestinian two-state solution is supported by nearly 150 countries out of 193. So you can see the global South is solidly behind the Palestinian cause and not willing to support the United States-led support to Israel and also by some European countries. So in that way, only the international order, a new order, will be able to resolve this logjam. I don't see its resolution because increasingly the Palestinian conflict is getting linked with what Russia, China, India, along with Brazil, South Africa, will do in the October summit in Kazan.
Dr. Pasha, we would like to know your views on Chinese perspective to what is happening in the Middle East now. How China looks at it.
Well, China, you see, has emerged as a major economic power, diplomatic power, and it is using its political contacts with all the groups. Recently, it invited both the factions, warring factions among the Palestinians to Beijing and mediated and solid coordinated front has been established. It wants peace and it supports the establishment of a Palestinian state. Secondly, it has worked in many countries in this region, West Asia, as part of the Belt and Road Initiative, whether it is Iran or Turkey or Iraq or even Israel and Syria and many Gulf countries, Egypt, so on and so forth. So economically, it has penetrated very deep into this region with huge investment, with huge projects, with its expanding trade. It is technologically sharing with many countries. So its economic presence has multiplied. So is its desire to get oil and gas from this region, insatiable demand for its economy to get oil and gas, and that has become important. And in this, it sees Pakistan as an important link through the CPEC and BRI also. So China and its growing presence is a cause of worry for the Americans and the Europeans because of what they have achieved in a short period. Militarily, also, they want to expand their presence, naval presence in Djibouti, in Madagascar, in Oman, and in Maldives and other places. Their maritime Silk route also is becoming very active, apart from their presence through Myanmar in the Bay of Bengal and in Southeast Asia and in the Indo-Pacific region. So China is a major player. It has established rail links to this region through Central Asia, through Iran, through Turkey, and it is likely to expand its presence in this region. And it has huge stakes in Saudi Arabia, UAE, and other Gulf countries through its investment, through its projects, through its trade and diplomatic presence. So there is no doubt in my mind about what China wants to do and how it wants to shape this region according to its strategic interests, its plans, and how to push this region into its sphere of influence and reduce the American and European influence in this region. It has a 25-year strategic agreement with Iran to invest billions of dollars in its infrastructure. So it is bypassing the United States European sanctions on Iran and trading with local currencies with Iran and strengthening its military capability, Iranian military capability also through a huge supply of weapons and technology. So in that way, China is positioning itself as a major power in this region, which is also a cause of major concern for Indian policymakers because we have not been able to match China either in Iran, Turkey, or in any of the Gulf countries or even in Egypt because the Chinese financial muscle is far huge. Military, political, diplomatic, cultural muscle is increasing, and we need to look into this area much more closely because we have historically very close relations and also presently the Gulf countries with West Asia, with which we are linked intimately in many ways, whether it is importing 80% of our oil and gas, or our 9.5 billion workers in the Gulf, or our trade of more than $100 billion plus, or investments, or our sea lanes, maritime security and piracy is a major concern. Even the fertilizers and rock phosphate we import food security from Jordan, from Egypt, from Morocco, from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, and other countries. So, from all of these angles, West Asia is important and uh, let China dominate and uh, be in a position to harm our interest in this part of the region.
Dr. Pasha, I think this discussion will be incomplete without discussing a point which we read these days very extensively. That is Can India broker peace in the present conflict? Has India capacity to do it?
Where? Can you repeat that?
Has India capacity to broker peace in this West Asia crisis? This has been we have been reading a lot about it that India can play this role.
Yes, I have also been working on this issue, what India can do to bring peace, stability, and security to this region. Because, as I said, our interests are intimately connected with peace and security there. Because even $1 rise in oil price or gas price will affect our economic development, our internal situation. Because if you recall, in 1973, there was an Arab-Israeli war, and the Arab countries had imposed an oil embargo, and there was acute shortage of oil, and the prices went up fivefold. And it affected Mrs. Indira Gandhi's government during that period, which led to high inflation, and we had to pay 5 times more to import the same oil in a matter of weeks. So in that way, it led to very high inflation, and there was widespread agitation in India from public sector, from all workers, etc. And the Jai Prakash Narayan movement escalated, and it led to internal emergency and instability in India. That was one of the contributory reasons for the rise in oil prices. So we have seen oil shock in 73, then Iranian Revolution, oil shock, then the Iran-Iraq war, oil shock, then the Kuwait crisis, oil shock, then sanctions on Iraq, and many other areas which have led to high oil prices, and if it affected our economic development, it upset our budget, it derailed our 5-year plans, so on and so forth. So our interest is our progress and development is linked to peace, security, and development in this region. And we have been in this context uh, trying to achieve a balanced relationship with Israel also. Until 1992, we had recognized Israel, but we didn't have diplomatic relations. But Narasimha Rao's government established diplomatic relations in January 92. And since then, we have become very close. Strategic relations, defense relations, and in other fields, Indo-Israel relations have boomed. But we don't have enough leverage over Israel because our trade is extremely limited. On the other hand, we continue to support the Palestinian state, Palestinian people, and we maintain good relations with Saudi Arabia and UAE and Iran also. We have leverage, but not as great as the United States has on Israel. We can play a role, but we are handicapped. Basically, we need to put our domestic house in order. Because of NDS government's policies towards minorities, it has become a issue among Arab people, Muslim people, that Indian minorities are not being treated well, and the right-wing policies of the Indian government has become an issue to be taking interest in resolving this Arab-Israeli issue. We have at the political level good relations with the leaders, but these leaders in the Arab world, whether it is in Saudi Arabia or Iran or other countries, they are not democratic. They are not elected. They are monarchies, and there is a lot of disaffection on the Palestine issue that they are with the United States and not with the Palestinian people. So in that way, there is a disconnect between the people and the rulers in this region, which are not democratic. they are autocratic monarchies, and we have to put our house also in order, because the India should follow an inclusive policy. This issue of lynching or demolition by bulldozers and selectively targeting minorities, gets adverse publicity for us in the Muslim countries and the social media. And we have to be careful because the domestic roots of our foreign policy, if they are weakened, like the earlier Naxalite movement or the Northeast insurgency or Kashmir, we will not be seen as appropriate to resolve the issues at the global level, especially the Arab-Israeli conflict, because the people will point out what is happening within India. You need to put your house in order. So in that way, we have to set an example by following an inclusive policy of involving all the minorities in the nation building process, in the economic development, and then we can showcase it to the rest of the world that we are really a functioning rule of law state, and where there is no discrimination or any targeting of minorities. Some cases it is happening. So in that way, you see, we are still a long way in articulating our desire, our mediatory role in the Arab-Israeli conflict.
Thank you, Dr. Pasha, for explaining India's position, its limitations, its limited capacity to have any moral authority on the issues involved in the Middle East conflict. But we hope that at that time it will be overcome, and we hope that India will try to play a role which is conducive to world peace and all that. So thank you very much, Dr. Pasha, for sparing time. Even you are abroad, but you accepted our invite and spare time for us. We had a very, a good account of the issues that you have raised. We hope the all concerned will take note of it and act accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
With your permission, I would like to close this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.